This presentation is a summary of the strata management industry in Western Australia. It uses aggregated data collated from the 2021 Strata Management Returns. Under the provisions of the Strata Titles Act 1985, the strata management industry, through strata managers, are required to lodge periodic returns to Landgate containing aggregated information about strata title schemes under their management. This information will be used to develop policy and advise the Minister on matters relating to strata managers. Towards the end of 2021, and under provisions contained in the Strata Titles General Regulations 2019, strata managers were asked to complete a return providing information deemed to be current as of 31st of December 2021. The strata managers were required to submit their returns within 3 months. This is the first of 5 consecutive annual returns which will be required to be undertaken by strata managers within Western Australia. Submissions were received from 149 strata managers from across the state. Returns from 7 voluntary strata managers have been excluded from most of the analysis, as voluntary managers are not required under the Strata Titles Act to submit annual returns. This slide provides a summary of the information required from strata managers within the returns. The top 3 rows relate to the number of returns received and the total number of schemes and lots reported. The following 3 rows are concerned with the dollar amounts of funds held in trust and then broken down to differentiate between reserve and admin funds. The final 3 rows deal with formal strata management qualifications and the extent to which they have been acquired within Western Australia. Because there was no obligation to provide details of qualifications of strata managers or their employees, only 70% chose to populate this section. With the ability to compare to WA's land registry, we are confident that the insights are representative of the wider market. This confidence is demonstrated by the number of schemes reported for medium, large and very large schemes versus the number of actual schemes extracted from the WA land registry. Similarly, the number of reported lots has a high correlation against the number of actual lots in the WA land registry. However, the number of reported small schemes form just 5% and 8% of lots of what we know to exist within the WA land registry. This slide contains the same information as the previous one, however, conveyed in a graphical format for ease of visualization. Feel free to pause this presentation should you wish. This slide talks to the amount of funds held by strata managers. There are 2 types of funds that are retained: admin and reserve. The ratio of admin to reserve funds is almost evenly split. That is, approximately $234 million held in admin and $245 million held in reserve. This translates to the industry retaining on average approximately $3,500 per lot. Referring to the table on the right-hand side, we can observe that the 5 strata managers with the highest reserve fund amounts represents approximately 35% of all reported reserve funds. This slide assigns the total funds to $500,000 brackets. So, looking at the profile for average lots per total funds bracket, we observe the following. The profile indicates an increasing trend in the number of average lots being managed for those very large schemes. By contrast, the number of average lots in small, medium and large schemes remains stable and low. In interpreting the graph, if an entity reports between $1 and $1.5 million of total funds, they are most likely to have in their portfolio an average of 4 lots for small schemes, the dark grey line, 11 lots for medium schemes, the yellow line, 23 lots for large schemes, the brown line, and 40 lots for very large schemes in teal. When we look at the profile of average lots per reserve fund bracket, we can observe a similar pattern insofar as fluctuating number of lots under management for very large schemes. The numbers of average lots in small, medium and large schemes remain stable and low for each reserve fund bracket. In interpreting this graph, if an entity reports between $1 million and $1.5 million of reserve funds, they are most likely to have in their portfolio an average of 4 lots for small schemes, 11 lots for medium schemes, 35 lots for large schemes, and 90 lots for very large schemes. This slide introduces qualifications based on total funds brackets. What is revealed here is over half of the returns, some 52%, have less than $1 million in total funds, with an average of 1 qualified person in each company, and that average of 1 increases as the total funds brackets increase, shown here in pink. A similar trend, shown here in mauve, is observed when it comes to partially qualified persons in a company, with a sharp rise in that average when funds exceed $20 million in total funds. The number of unqualified personnel is randomly distributed. It is worth noting that the completion of this part of the return was voluntary and may not reflect the actual industry figures. The specific level to which strata managers offered standard services was difficult to assess, as many returns simply stated as required under the regs, or simply listed what they saw as their top 5 most common services. This is reflected in the ad hoc number of common and support services expressly reported in each return, contrasted against the 142 returns. Conversely, this section, being a free text field, some strata managers took the opportunity to detail all their services as listed in the key findings. This slide deals with qualifications and personnel. Based on submissions, what we can report is that there are 241 fully qualified individuals, with a further 89 actively working towards a Certificate 4 in strata management. Despite being a requirement to operate a strata management business, only 43% of principals and designated persons possess a Certificate 4, and just 26% of additional persons who are not principals or designated persons possess a Certificate 4. However, similar to slide 9, there was no obligation in the return to provide information on persons employed or engaged in the business, and may not reflect the actual industry figures. Here we see a breakdown in the number of reported individuals operating within the strata management industry within Western Australia. So, from the top, we can see that out of 700 reported individuals, 34% are fully qualified, 13% are partially qualified, and 53% have no qualifications. With respect to the reported 337 principals and designated persons, we see just 43% are fully qualified. Of the 363 reported additional persons, 26% are fully qualified, 25% partially qualified, and 49% have no qualifications. This slide looks at the average number of lots managed per qualified principal or designated person. The returns identified companies with fully qualified and/or designated persons are managing, on average, 40 schemes comprising of 575 lots. It is worth noting that 78 of the 142 returns, or 55% of respondents, do not have any qualified principals or designated persons in their companies. This slide is slightly different in that the information portrayed is a function of average lots per qualified person within the industry. Those companies with fully qualified personnel are managing, on average, just 28 schemes comprising of 388 lots per qualified person. Also noteworthy is that 72 of the 142 returns, or 51% of respondents, do not have any, or chosen not to report on, qualified persons working in their company. In a similar vein to the previous slide, this one seeks to demonstrate the relationship between the lots per scheme category size and qualified persons within a company. As you might expect, there is a correlation between companies with a large number of qualified persons and the propensity to manage very large schemes. Companies with no qualified persons were managing an average profile of 4 lots in small schemes, 10 lots in medium schemes, 22 lots in large schemes, and 37 lots in very large schemes. Whereas, if there were 6 qualified persons in the strata management company, more than likely each qualified person would have a portfolio to manage that includes 4 lots in small schemes, 10 lots in medium schemes, 30 lots in large schemes, and 83 lots in very large schemes. This is the final slide in this presentation. We thank all the strata managers and voluntary managers for providing their 2021 strata management returns. The information collated will help shape the future of the industry by delivering policies that ensure the best interests for Western Australia.